Watch him throw the ball, we gon' pick it off. You gon' let him hit the hole or you gon' cut it off. You gon' play through 4th and long or you gon' punt it off. Your defenders, heavy hitters, put your pads in. Don't be looking for the ref to throw no flags in. Keep the helmet on, keep the cleats tight. You the type to want to win by any means, right? You should look alive. This is Trap or Dive.
Yes, sir. Welcome back to another Trap or Dive podcast. I'm your host of the Trap or Dive podcast, Mual, man. The fellas is on the way. AJ is backstage. He's going to be joining us shortly. Welcome, man. I hope everybody had a nice little holiday weekend away from work. Hopefully, I don't know what y'all work situation is looking like, but I hope you all had a nice little holiday break. Washington tried their best to ruin things for me this weekend, right? But no weapon formed against me shall prosper, baby. Let's get the administrative items out of the way. If you are watching live, we appreciate you watching live. We appreciate you tapping in off the jump, man. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, especially if you are new. Audio side, man, if you are listening, we definitely appreciate that. As always, if you can help us out, 10 seconds, man, rate, review, show us some love, man. It's free to do so. As always, I see somebody checking in the comments. What's going on, Will? Appreciate you checking in, big dog. On this episode, we're going to do, if everybody don't know, I'm out of town in a couple of days. So there won't be a Thursday show. So we're gonna mesh in what's going on, Monty. We're gonna mesh in the Miami preview for a little bit on the back end as we get ready for that game. And again, no instant recap this week either. Gonna be out of town in Vegas. So keep that in mind too. Anyway, let's go ahead and get AJ in. I'm assuming he is ready. Where are we at? And boom, that's taken care of. Dakota, I'm gonna need you to relax. If I send your ass to the gulag. What's going on, AJ? You good, bro?
Yes, sir. Cool.
How you feeling, man? Everything all right, dog? I seen you over here talking about what? Wait, that may have been yesterday, but I saw that the no Watson tweet, bro. Like, you a wild dude, man. That was funny as hell.
Hey, man, allergies killing me, but yeah, had to get some relaxation in. No Watson. You feel me?
Let me ask you though on some real shit, 'cause I was just talking to somebody yesterday about like massages, and they do massages like often, and they didn't necessarily say like once a month or anything like that, but often meaning like I only got a massage done like once in my life. So
one time in your whole life?
Yeah, and that was 2 years ago. And the crazy thing is I loved it. Like I love the jump, but like how often do you get a massage, bro?
It's part of self-care routine, but it just really boils down to where and who. So a couple years ago I tore my right quad tendon. So that's when I really kind of stepped up the massage thing a little bit more, not just for relaxation purposes, but just like physical therapy aspect and releasing some of the the tissue or whatever within my knee due to the injury. So my homegirl would come to my house maybe 2 to 3 times a month to do the massages, but like she's a professional, like to the point where I helped her get a job with the Washington Wizards and Mystics or whatever. So she's actually the Wizards physical therapist currently. So yeah, I mean,
she do like a. Do you do? You mentioned like, do you do it like a deep tissue jump? Is that what you do?
it all depends. So I really kind of like just let her tell me what she thinks works. So I'll do like deep tissue. Sometimes I'll do like more so like soft tissue. We might even do dry needling, whatever the case is for however I'm feeling. Cause like
the hell is a dry needling? Don't tell me that's the jump where they actually put the little needle, the acupuncture jump.
yeah, the acupuncture.
Lord
Like
Jesus.
but in this regard, like just being out in Medellin, man, like massage like $25-$30, bro, like for an hour to an hour and a half. That's why I said no Watson. Because I ain't want people to think it was on some like creepy shit.
Man,
but I just
we let Watson turn at it.
I'm about to say we didn't. Massages are perfectly fine, man. Don't get a little paranoia.
Yeah, man. But I just included in my self-care, man. I think more of us men, need to be gentle and graceful to ourselves. So I get the manicure, pedicure, go get my hair retwisted, haircut, massage, whatever I need to do, just to, I guess make myself feel cute and relax. But yeah, I definitely would say if you only had a massage one time in your life, man, just try to do it a couple more times, bro. Even this trip you're gonna be in Vegas, you feel me? There's typically a spa at the resorts. I've never mind. I take that back. I have had one in Vegas, but it wasn't at a spa. I'm trying to see. Maybe I still got the person's number or whatever. But yeah, like even if you come back home, man, there's some spots in the area. There's some good people that provide those services without any of the freaky stuff. Because I will say, I remember, quick story before we get into our regular routine. I had sold my agency to another agency that was based in LA, like some guys or whatever, some like kind of younger guys, but they were Caucasian.
Mm-hmm. Your agency meaning like what does that
like
mean?
My sports agency. So like
okay.
At the time, like who I was representing, all the services, clients, whatever. I sold
all right.
them.
Okay.
So their way of like celebrating was during the Super Bowl when we're out Arizona, when the Super Bowl was last out Arizona. One of the guys was like, hey, ride with me, we about to go somewhere or whatever. So I'm thinking like, oh, we about to go to like mansion, get something to drink. I don't know. Man, we end up pulling up at some Asian massage parlor. Buddy was trying to get his fix in, dog. I was like, bruh, you gotta be kidding me, son. I would never.
Hey, that man put you on a Robert Kraft move, bruh.
Man, I would never, dog. I would never, ever. Like, I'm talking about the lady's older Asian lady. I'm like, man,
bro, I was just about to ask
bro.
you. I was like, now I know you weren't with it, but like, before you figured out what it was, did they look good? But you said they
hell
old.
nah, bro. Like, I was not with it, dog. Like, ain't no offense to Asian women. I think there's some beautiful ones, but they ain't really my speed. Like, yeah. So I was just like, hey, bro, I'm gonna just sit out in the car, dog. And he was so
cooler in the car.
He was so geeked up, and when he came out, he was so happy, bro. I was like, okay, now I understand happy endings. Before that, I didn't know.
He got some self-care, AJ.
Yeah, he definitely got more than some self-care. Like, but I ended up learning later on in life. Like one day, I just really needed a massage. I went in one spot, and lady tried to, man, she pretty much sexually assaulted me, dog, without my permission. And I was like, yo, you can chill, dog. But yeah, some of these spots is wow.
They're a little janky and shit.
Yeah, they definitely janky, jerky, whatever you want to call it.
Dre, what's going on with you, player?
Ain't shit, man. Another week, man. Shit, you know what I'm saying? I'm still waiting for January. I'm on that type of time. I'm just trying to fast forward to January, get to this off season, get to these fires. I feel like AJ right now. You know how
Hey, Dre,
AJ
I
been
feel like
clamoring
we
for
already
this.
there. I feel like we already in draft mode, firing mode. Who gonna be the new post GM? We already there.
Bruh, like we gotta look right now. And I'm watching the standings every week. I'm watching the losing teams every week because that's the only thing I'm watching the NFL for right now because I need the highest draft pick possible.
I'm looking at or no, I'm trying to find the tweet. Who said this yesterday? Let me keep scrolling. Good Lord, where is it at? Oh, it's a lot. Anyway, I gotta find this. But there was a report. You mentioned like you feel like we already in January. There's a report out now where they're talking about it's like potentially up to somewhere between 7 to 10 coaching changes that's going to occur in the offseason. We already got 2. And we know there's 2 more on the way for sure. Right? Ron's gone. And I would imagine the other guarantee for me is the Chargers dude, Staley. Like I think those 2 are the guaranteed. But like this offseason is going to be crazy. And I would love because we've been saying it for like the past couple of weeks. Like we say that Washington and I'm not saying with what I'm about to tell you is a disagreement. I don't think it's a disagreement, but it's like we always say that Washington is in prime position with their draft picks, their cap space upcoming, right? Like, and then obviously you need a GM and you need a head coach. Like it's prime territory for somebody to like think that this job is really in good standing. I don't disagree, but I'm like, but what happens if it does happen to be 7 to 10 total head coach firings or like whole regime changes? Where does Washington rank in those potential 7 or 10? Like, are they still like a top 3 destiny? Like, or is this something where I'm sitting here thinking like, damn, are we going to go like to the middle area, like the back end of the 7 to 10? I don't know, man, because this is new territory. Like we swore up and down. It's somewhat like players and stuff like that, where we think that coaches are the problem or a player is the problem, and you see some change and nothing changed. Like this is kind of how how I'm thinking about it right now is like we swore up and down. Like this is the opportunity that Washington needed, but like, what if Washington is not valued for other reasons that we aren't even thinking? And that's kind of how my brainstorming.
Well, I think when you hear Adam Schefter say something like that, he knows information, of course, as we all know, but he's represented by an agency that has.
Let me try to find that tweet.
He's represented by an agency that's also overseen by a guy named Jimmy Sexton. If you know anything about the football world, whether it be collegiate or professional, he's represented some of the top players over the years. But most importantly, he represents most of the coaches that make up these top programs in the collegiate world and also in the NFL world. So they are getting their guys prepared for these job opportunities. But if I'm not mistaken, the owners changed the rules of how you can actually go about hiring and interviewing a head coach. I think one of the rules is like, let's say, for example, if you possibly wanted to go after Brian Johnson, that is the offensive coordinator for the Eagles, and the Eagles end up advancing to the playoffs, you can't interview that person until I think it's like after like divisional round or something like that. It's something along those lines where, let's say if a top tier top tier prospect and their team is advancing in the playoffs, you're pretty much like behind the 8 ball of being able to interview who you want to, because they don't want to have like distractions for those guys. As we've seen, the Cardinals got fined for Jonathan Gannon, interviewing with the Cardinals in advance, and they ended up coming to some type of agreement and swapping picks due to that violation. But I think it really just boils down to that particular prospect. One of my good friends is actually a coaching agent and represents some of these guys that will be available to the marketplace. Every guy got different preferences. Like some guys, it might matter on who's the owner, how much money they can get guaranteed, how many years can be on that contract, how much control, how much say-so they'll have in GM that possibly might get hired. Some guys want 4-year contracts. Some guys want 6-year contracts to feel more committed. Just really all.
Hey, pause. So that's a really good point. It made me think about two areas, and I'm gonna draw a blank on the second one, but the first one is Kyle. Kyle and John Lynch got married for what was like 6-7 years or something like that.
Yeah.
And then John Gruden, he had a 10-year contract. And that motherfucker ain't last all but 2 years. But to that point being, though, AJ, and why I wanted to pause for a second, who in Washington or who for Washington fits best? Like, I feel like what's coming up next for Josh Harris in my imagination is a person in GM head coach combo where you're looking at least like 5. Like, you want something a little bit more. You want something long term here with your first hire, because it's like you're trying to establish some level of. I mean, obviously you can fire him at any time, but some level of stability would show with them like a 5+ year contract or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, either way, the contract is guaranteed. You feel me? So it all depends on your cachet as that prospect. So let's say if you're a highly touted guy right now, a lot of people would say Ben Johnson is the name, right? In order to possibly lure him from other teams, you might have to either pay him a little bit more or guarantee him an additional year of a contract, or you might have to have offsetting language in his contract to where if he does get fired during that tenureship, he still gets to keep that money or not, depending on if he goes and get a job elsewhere. That could be on the collegiate level or with another NFL team. I think Washington would be 5 years. I think the only team I could possibly see agree to a 6-year would be the Carolina Panthers, just due to the fact of how many guys have been fired under that ownership group already. It's like, hey, man, guarantee me the 6, because even Frank Wright, his contract was for 4 years. So I want to say Matt Rule was for 4 years as well, either 5. But I feel like with how many firings have taken place lately, whoever wants that job is going to say, hey, man, guarantee me 6 years. Because at the end of the day, you could get fired whenever. So you really can't guarantee yourself time to do the job. It's more so, let me secure my finances in case this motherfucker decides to go another direction within any given moment. Yeah, so I think that's really the interesting part, what Josh Harris does. I think a lot of us have tried to like tap into what he's done from the NBA side, NHL side. I really don't know what direction they're going to go, but I can't really, I don't know. A part of me doesn't feel like, excuse me, a part of me doesn't feel like they would give this job to a first-time head coach that hasn't experienced the league long enough. That's my
I want Dre to go first, but I'm glad you said that. I'm gonna circle back to that one.
Yeah, I mean, not even saying this because I'm a Washington fan, but I mean, who wouldn't find this situation very attractive? I mean, from the GM standpoint, the coaching standpoint, because essentially there's no promises to anybody or no allegiances to anybody in the building, whether that be the front office side of it, the business side, or the personnel side, the coaching side, whatever. Like there's going to be a clean blank slate for anyone coming in here. And, obviously the GM has to come first. I mean, that's the first thing, that's the important thing that Josh has to get right. I mean, a lot of people say he usually goes for the analytically driven guys. And you got to think that whatever GM they hire, or at least in my opinion, he's probably going to hire someone he has some kind of relationship with. Hopefully they're going to do their due diligence and interview multiple people, but at the end of the day, they might be somebody with a working relationship. So that's even better. If you have a working relationship or you actually know or familiar with the guy that's coming in, then you're at least knowing, hey, I got some stability here. And as far as AJ is talking about with the contracts, I mean, the NBA side, Josh Harris is pretty lenient with the contracts he usually gives his coaches. Doc Rivers was top 5 in coach's salary at $8 million a year. He had a 5-year contract, so his was 5 years, $40 million. Nick Nurse, the current coach of the 76ers, 4 years, $32 million. That's an $8 million salary. Again, top 5. So I think whoever's coming here, I don't think salary is going to be a problem. They're going to pay you probably top dollar, more than likely top 5, but whatever top 5 average salary is in NBA, they're going to be somewhere in there. So again, I mean, as far as the 7 to 10 openings that may happen, I got to think that we're going to probably fall somewhere in the top 3, because I mean, even if, a lot of coaches probably want to go somewhere where they could either pick their quarterback or they're going to have some kind of attractive situation coming into the quarterback thing. Sam Howell, I mean, while none of us are really, convinced or, super, or we don't really know what his ceiling is or, how the rest of the league evaluates him right now, I think he at least makes the situation attractive enough if they can't go out and get their guy yet, that he can hold it down for now and they can still kind of see what they have. So that makes the situation even more attractive, well, as Sam Howell, essentially Sam Howell's a fallback option in a sense, because if you're picking as high as Washington, if you're picking as high as Washington is going to be picking this offseason, quarterback, I mean, drafting a quarterback is definitely on the table. And again, new regime, new people coming in. Sam Howell doesn't have a promise by anyone right now, not even the owner. And that's the first time this has happened. I was trying to sit there and think the other day, have we been in a situation, at least in the Dan Snyder era, where a guy has come into a situation? I think maybe Steve Sperry has been the only one that got to pick his quarterbacks when he first came in. Maybe Mike Shanahan, because I know he brought Donovan in.
He brought Donovan, but I don't know if Donovan was his move.
Yeah, I mean, I think that was just hey, we're gonna, a bridge guy at least. I mean, in that sense. But then, Mike also had to deal with.
What about how did Mark Brunell come about? I know. Obviously, Joe drafted Jason, but how did Mark Brunell come about?
When Mark Brunell was when that situation, Patrick Ramsey was actually still here when Mark Brunell was here.
I remember.
I think the expectation was going to be that Patrick Ramsey was going to start, and then I don't know. I think when Joe and them got here, they were like, I don't know if we can roll with this guy. And then I think that's how the Mark Brunell idea came. But Joe Gibbs is probably the only one.
Week 1,
yeah,
right?
Pat, he did. Yeah, he did get hurt, but he just still wasn't any good. In the game that he got, the game he got hurt.
There was one thing I knew back then. I was like, Pat. I was like, Pat ain't
it. Yeah. So I mean, but Joe was like the only one that kind of had free will to do what he wanted in the Snyder era, because Snyder just respected him so much. But everyone else dealt with some level of meddling, or even some level of, when they came in, they kind of had to deal with the allegiance from another staff or allegiance to another front office, because these were Snyder handpicks or someone Snyder wanted to give a chance. So my point is here, this is the first time as a Washington fan that we're not entering an off season, well, at least facing a new regime where we're going to be having to force something on this new regime. They get to come in here and pretty much do what they want to do, wipe the slate clean if they want to, or they can keep some guys, whoever they like. But the point is, it's going to be their decision. So at the end of the day, I do think this is going to be a top 3 destination, even if it's a lot of openings.
Yeah, I think what makes Washington a more attractive opportunity is the fact that the GM and the coach get to set up their own arrangement, essentially. Like when you look at it, they get to establish, GM is going to get hired before the head coach, but that GM will already be able to give the ownership group an idea who they want to be their head coach. And that's just based off relationship, just like any business, like relationships matter. And that's what's really going to cultivate who is the head coach. Like as soon as that is announced who the GM is, you kind of can already go to the tree of relationships and figure out who's going to be the head coach.
Yeah, like you mentioned your idea of, and this is the last thing I say in last conversation we could have on future things. But you mentioned AJ, everything with the relationship between the GM and the head coach, but also mentioned who you think based on Josh Harris, and his idea. I guess that's kind of where Magic even mentioned this question about shouldn't the GM hire the coach and not the owner. I think ultimately though, I understand your direction. I've been pondering this same thing in terms of like the idea of who is going to be the next head coach for Washington, because it seems like Washington needs, and this is like perspective. This isn't based on like fact or anything, just my perspective. But I'm like, Washington is in this space where like, it seems as if the players don't even understand what winning looks like anymore. Like they're lost and they're content. In the way in which Ron Rivera runs things, and it looks like the coaches don't have answers. Not saying everyone, I'm saying them like the biggest people involved, coordinators. I mean, obviously one got fired in Del Rio, but then Ron Rivera doesn't have answers either. But I think that they need guidance from a sense of somebody who can really relate to them, but also like get the point across of what it's going to take to win. And what they need to, like, their mentality in terms of what it takes to win, and like being able to communicate something that, I'm not saying that a new coach can't do this, but I'm saying like somebody with a track record of having wins on their record in prominent spaces, right? And that's AJ, that's where I was kind of at with that head coaching thing. I feel like I'm not saying that that's going to be the route, but I started accepting that possibility over the past few days much more than I thought it was going to be a fresh new guy with a new face for the league to witness.
Yeah, and I'm right there with you, man. Like that's why I said it's so important on who they hire as GM and how they want to establish things. Because I feel like as much as Ron Rivera preach culture, they really don't have a culture in Washington. A lot of those guys on the roster, yeah, they might have played at high levels for some collegiate programs, whether it be the Alabamas, Ohio States of the world. But what they've been introduced to from an NFL perspective has been a losing mentality, not putting in the work, not being prepared, not going the extra mile and paying attention to details. So if it were up to me, man, I wouldn't even look at a Ben Johnson, to be quite frank with you, bro. Like I would look at guys like a Raheem Morris, who has coached on the offensive side, has coached on the defensive side, been a top coordinator in this league, still a top coordinator in this league, won a Super Bowl, also has coached before as, you know, that guy in Tampa Bay, but ended up getting fired at year 2. Relatable to players, like comes from that background as a teacher. Like I think too many times we focus on the X's and O's too much and not the leadership aspect and who can really build out a coaching staff. And I tweeted about this like earlier today. I think one of the main reasons why Ben Johnson went back to the Lions is he's so young in the game and he really hasn't cultivated that many relationships. It's hard for him to build out a staff. Like building out that staff when you go into those interviews, like you got to know who you feel confident and you're going to be able to bring in as the OC, the DC, the defensive backs coach, the D-line coach, whatever. And if you're a guy that's 35, 36, 37, and you really haven't been around the league, it's kind of hard for you to pinpoint to who you could bring in because it's not just money that can draw them in, it's relationships. That's why Mike McDaniels has been able to do what he's been doing in Miami. Even though he's young, he's been all over the league. From Denver to San Francisco.
Big Fangio in his second year.
Yeah, but Fangio was with him in San Fran, that background, like also Denver background. Like that's what I'm saying. So it's about how you build out that coaching staff. It's gonna be very interesting, man. That's what I'm focused on, you know, for the rest of the year.
I was just going to kind of comment. I actually disagree, AJ. Like I think it's going to be hard to sell this fan base on a retreat coach, especially one that didn't really have success in his first year. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be really hard to sell this fan base on that, especially after Ron Rivera. I mean, Ron Rivera, they view as the ultimate retread. I mean, there's been reports of Bill Belichick and fans have turned that notion down. So imagine if you dangle Raheem Morris' name out there, who didn't have a successful stint as a head coach in Tampa Bay. And I mean, I think he was an interim at Atlanta for a little bit, but either way, that was a dumpster fire season for them. But it's going to be hard to kind of sell the fan base on that because right now, I think a lot of the fan base, they're looking around the rest of the league and they're kind of trying to get some kind of copycat thing going. And then there's this trend that offensive coaches are more likely to succeed in today's NFL. I mean, obviously, that's what the game is. It's an offensive approach to the game. So, and I think with Josh,
you can continue.
Yeah,
I know you continue, but
Yeah.
but who are the defensive coaches in the NFL today? Right, I think about obviously Mike Tomlin. I think about Todd Bowles.
You talking about head coaches?
Yeah, head coaches.
Which one of the Harbaugh brothers is at the Ravens? Is it John or Jim?
That's John.
That's
He's
John.
special teams.
He's special.
Okay, but he had a defensive background too.
Yeah, pretty much.
So Buffalo, Sean McDermott. So you got three. You said Pete Carroll.
Yeah, Pete Carroll. That's true.
Pete Carroll.
D'Amico Ryans.
D'Amico Ryans was the one I was definitely about to bring up, and then Brandon Staley, bum ass, and then Ron Rivera, bum ass,
and then Gannon for the Cardinals.
Yeah,
Gannon. Yeah. He a wash. I'm gonna just do 7. I don't know what's up with Arizona right now, but 7. You got 7 for sure. Like my thing is, and I think to add on to the conversation, like I don't think that's wrong, but I think because I'm even in the sense of like we've had a defensive coach recently, and I want to change things up, but I don't mind going back to the well if that means the offensive coordinator is either somebody who's established somewhere, in terms of like they're a legit up and comer, like their name is ringing through culture circles, or you're talking about a person who has familiarity with the roster here, and that's where Bieniemy fits in. Like I think those are the kind of the things where you look at an offensive coordinator, in terms of under a defensive coach, like you gotta find something that you can allow to blossom with if you choose to go with your young quarterback that's currently on the roster now, or we're going to go and bring a new quarterback in. Like, but you got to allow that to blossom and allow it to see that through. And I think that will probably be the most important thing if you get a defensive coach. I think bottom line, I don't have a problem with a defensive coach.
And some people,
go ahead.
Some people mention Robert Saleh, Mike Vrabel, Bill Belichick.
Robert Saleh, yep, my bad, and Vrabel. Yeah. Damn, there we go.
I think there's no. It's all a crap shot, just like the draft. Like you really don't know. Like you can hit on a guy, or you cannot. You know what I mean? There's teams that have offensive coordinator mindset, head coaches that offense is ass. We just seen one get fired. And Frank Reich, the one couple weeks ago was Josh McDaniels. He's always been the wonder boy. You feel me, at the NFL, and he got fired. So it just really all depends.
Yeah, I see. Yeah, for sure. Mike Vrabel. What do we know about Eberflus? Anything? Is he defense?
I think he's defense. Either way, the Bears suck.
Right. They do. Okay. So where are we at? All right, bet. So, as we kind of gear up for the Miami game, right? Let's kind of talk about something that is useful for the Miami game, but also like something that Ron said. What's today? Tuesday? Yesterday, or maybe even Friday? I'm not sure. But he obviously, after he fired Jack Del Rio, he said that he was going to change some things up defensively. Things were going to be a little bit more simpler, but he's going to try and find some ways to get some one-on-ones with his guys up front. Where you all at with this idea, or even just the comments in itself? I'm in this space where, like, I've said it like 1,000 times on this show. I never said how I felt about it, just observations. Jack Del Rio would never put Chase or Montez on the same side. He would never change their alignments in the sense of like their majority of their alignment is they're outside the tackle. That's it. That's all. You ain't had nothing else to worry about. And it was like if you got singled, win it. If you got doubled, good luck, but I need you to win it. Like it was all based on like these one-on-one opportunities with a 4-man rush. And God bless you don't get double teamed. Because if you do, then you SOL type thing, right? I think that's kind of the biggest thing. But when you look at Ron and trying to create one-on-ones, I do think it kind of opens a Pandora box of what you can potentially see against Miami. For him, I would imagine now 11 days is that's a mini buy, but I would imagine for him 11 days ain't enough to fix this shit. But he got a job to do, and I think the biggest thing hearing him say something like that and trying to give these guys a chance defensively is really looking at the tape to seeing which matchups you can exploit and how can you get to them through your games or through your simulated pressures. If you're even going to do simulated pressures, because they don't. It was kind of messy back there, man. So I get a floor to you all, see if you see where you all want to take that. But I'm definitely interested in seeing, at least for Ron's side, how he marries what he wants to do, and what it looks like actually on the field this Sunday.
I mean, I'll just to make it short on my end, because I really ain't got much to say. They're gonna get cooked either way. But my issue is you're the head coach. You could have changed this years ago. Why is it now going to be simplified that you fired Jack Del Rio? Like, what do you really do?
I agree with the idea though of people saying, I don't know who said it earlier today, because I was listening. I don't know who I was listening to. But I was listening to the radio, and like even like if you respect Jack Del Rio, right, and you respect him as a coordinator, and you respect him, I'm not saying that obviously with leadership standpoint, you could. I don't disagree with AJ. He should have been did it, but I also think that from Ron's perspective, he's like, look, man, I brought Jack in here to do his thing. Like, if he gonna single swim, he's gonna single swim doing his own thing. And that's where I'm like, all right, well, Jack is doing something different from what I do, but I'm gonna let him rock out because I trust him. And that's kind of where I think that's what Ron got in trouble with. So to your point, AJ, you said, what do you do? Like, I just think that he really let Jack just rock out with his own shit.
Man, look, that's like me coming on Trap or Dive and saying, like, this is your thing, Mual, but hey, we're gonna change up the song. We're gonna change up what we talk about. We now not gonna talk about football no more. We're gonna talk about sex and relationships. Like,
but that's completely drastic from the game plan, though. No, I'm saying that's what I'm saying. Like, I get the comparison or the analogy, but I was like, that's drastic. Like,
I gotta follow your lead. You brought me in, like, you are my authority, pretty much. Like, at the end of the day, like, that's where I have the issue with Ron. It's like, at some point, you have to realize that whatever he's doing does not work. So either you move on from that individual overall, or y'all have differences in philosophy, or you step in and you say, hey, let's try it this way. Let's see how it works. Because if you're not doing any of those things during the tenureship, like, we're not talking about a span of couple games here. We're talking about you guys have a long-standing relationship before even coaching with Washington. And now that he is the DC of defense, and it's been years, like, when do you step in and give your opinion? Also, the fact that you come from a defensive background, being a former defensive coordinator, it's like, why did you wait until this man was fired to voice your opinion? It's like, that's what's alarming to me. Y'all should all be on a collaborative effort as a staff. That's just how I view it, because whatever the DC ends up coming up with game plan wise, and from a scheme wise, philosophical standpoint, has to be then passed down to the position coaches for them to teach the proper technique and so on. And it's like, if y'all not on the same page of what you really want for your defense, the staff that you put together, that's a bigger problem than anything.
I don't think you wrong. Dre, you got the floor. I don't think you wrong, bruh. I just think, like, Ron thinks a particular way. And, like, in order to even get into the mind of which, like, he'd operate, because there's two perceptions. Like, either he really genuinely gave Jack, like, his own, like, he just didn't meddle in anything he had going on, or he's doing his fluff thing again in the media to appease the people that's listening to him. And, like, it's either one or the other. and we'll find out Sunday. But also, like, I'm so interested in the idea because I know that there was so much that could have been done with this defensive line that I'm willing to listen to him and then hold him accountable after the game to see if some things that he wanted to do were actually done. But Dre, you got the floor.
Yeah, I was just going to say, if we do see a big difference out there, it's going to be funny, especially if it's a difference in a positive way. Because, I mean, it's hard not to kind of go back to Ron's process when he was hiring coordinators. I mean, because you think about it, when he went the offensive route, I mean, which is not Ron's side of the ball. Ron is a defensive guy. He went with the most inexperienced coordinator he could find in Scott Turner. You know, he didn't decide to go to seasoned offensive coordinator route with a guy who may already have whatever kind of philosophies he has and go with from there. But on the defensive side, he chose to go with a very experienced guy who already has his own philosophies. And I don't think Ron and Jack had a working relationship professionally in the NFL. I could be wrong, but I don't think they worked together anywhere. So you got to think the philosophies were a bit different. So why would Ron, as a defensive guy, kind of go out and hire a guy that, you know, kind of has different visions for the defense? I mean, I know Jack Del Rio had been successful at every stop of the way, but you as a head coach, you would think that you want to kind of build this roster, especially on the side that you're familiar with more, with people who kind of align with your vision and your philosophy. So it just kind of confusing in that sense, you know, when you think about the process. So it will be interesting to watch over these next few weeks how successful is Ron's changes, so to speak. I mean, he's putting it out there, but again, more, you could be right in the sense that this could be more fluff pieces from Ron, where he thinks he's telling us what we want to hear. You know, I guess for however little bit of time he has left here in Washington, you know, he's gonna, you know, say what he thinks everyone wants to hear. But again, the results will show. But either way, I don't think it's going to be a great look on Ron because, you know, for one, like I said, we're going to go back and say, hey, you know, this is what doomed you. Kind of like with Jay Gruden. When Jay Gruden was here, we always said that what doomed Jay Gruden was his selection of defensive coordinators. I mean, Joe Barry, Greg Minuski, you know, these were guys who probably, you know, weren't good for him on that side of the ball. And Ron Rivera has Jack Del Rio, who he ends up keeping with him pretty much all the way up until the last bone. And now you're saying you're going to do something different in the last 5 to 6 games, however many games are left in the season. Like now you're going to bring us something different. So even if it is a positive change, it's going to be too little too late.
Yeah, definitely late. There's nothing that he can really do to save it. I do think, like, as you were talking, Dre, I do think like there's a way that he can like, I'm convinced. So I may not be the person that this applies to, but I guess people who are kind of on the fence of like the talent on this roster, I think at the very least, like, if he does happen to be saying what he wants to say and like meaning like exactly what he's like, whatever he's hinting to in the media, his questions, Q&A, all that stuff, I think that if it works out for Washington's defense and they perform better than the 31st ranked defense in the NFL, 32nd ranked defense in the NFL, and like these players start to stand out a little bit more based on how Ron is doing things. I mean, and if you even come out the gate holding the Miami Dolphins to 24 points and 320 yards, 330 yards. Not saying it's going to happen, but I'm saying, like, in terms of like his game plan and the production on the field, and then the production on the field where it matters most, which is up front, because that's the biggest question mark. That's the biggest disappointment of the whole season for that unit, that defensive unit. Maybe you end up saving the perception of some people and also like increasing their value in terms of how they can be used for the next regime. I don't know. Maybe like, because right now the value around a lot of people on that defensive side is low. You don't really have, I mean, we're talking about the defense, but like from a roster standpoint, you don't really have that many people on the offense that you look at and say, like, I love these guys for the next people to come through. So that's kind of where I think that Ron can really look out for his guys, as if he actually puts them in position to win, and like the players show that they're actually bought in to what Ron changes are and how he's using that on the field for the next 5 games. Shit, you got a hell of a test. Miami, Dallas again, especially if they're playing for something. Odds are, if it's the last game of the season, they ain't playing for shit. But if they're playing for something, you got that. Like the Jets. I mean, the Jet. It's crazy, mind you. I'm sorry. Last thing, because I know it's crazy how Washington just came off a game with 9 sacks, right? And there was legitimately some people who believe that this defensive line was really like Ron made the right moves with this defensive line, and they come back against the Dallas Cowboys on the Thursday night Thanksgiving football and give up only create 14 pressures throughout the whole day, and Dak Prescott leaves the game with a clean white and blue jersey, bro.
But you know the thing about that 9-sack game that they had, Maul, they didn't create havoc in that game. A lot of those sacks were like coverage sacks, or it was no havoc created in the pass rush. It was like they were more so fortunate sacks. So for me watching it, I didn't feel like going forward. Oh man, this is a defense. They about to finally get after the quarterback. I felt like, oh man, that was just a young quarterback that didn't really know how to handle the pressure, or he didn't know what he was looking at a lot of those times. And we just had fortunate sacks. So I didn't take too much from that, but I know some fans did.
Dre, Mayo had 2 or 3 out of those 9 sacks. Come on.
Yeah, right. That's an anomaly.
Yeah, like we already knew what time it was. Like for David Mayo to have sacks, bro, like come on, son. Ron is in a lose-lose in this situation. If they look better, people gonna be like, "Oh, you really stupid." And if they look the same or worse, you're gonna be like, "Hey, your ass is still out here." You feel me? Like, because if they come out and they look like a better defensive unit under his tutelage alongside Richard Rodgers, people gonna be like, "The hell did you wait all season to do this for?" Like, it's gonna look stupid. So I don't know, but it is what it is, man. Either way, he'll be in Charlotte kicking it with Frank Wright. January, that's when it'll be, and they can plan their vacations. They can go golfing, maybe in the Bahamas. They could visit Bali. They can go to Hawaii. Maybe if any travel agents out there, make sure to send some emails or make some phone calls.
AJ, if he gonna be hanging with Frank Wright, I don't know if he want to do that. Frank Wright might be laughing at him about that Carson Wentz trade.
Oh Lord Jesus!
Hey man, they got a good relationship. That's why that happened. You feel me? He trusts Frank Wright so much that his ass ended up getting fired. It's crazy how everything is intertwined. Like Frank Wright traded him Carson Wentz, like you said. Frank Wright went and took his old job with the Panthers, and now they both about to be on the couch and never coaching again because ain't nobody in their right mind will ever hire those two ever again as a head coach.
Frank said he done. He knows.
Right, he got free money.
Yeah, I'm about to say he ain't tripping about nothing. All right, so
hey Jay Tyler, what is your issue?
That's what I was laughing.
You want me to talk about Ron Rivera being good? Talk about it's crazy how much joy AJ takes talking about Ron being bad. He sucks. What you want me to do? Like praise him?
Hey, look, man, I don't know. Because, at the end of the day, he's the head coach. And on top of that, I could have sworn we were talking about some of his comments that he made over the past the past day or something like that about the changes that he's going to make. I think for Washington, like I mentioned, I think that is something that I'm interested. I'm seriously interested in seeing, if he's either holding true to his word or just giving the media fluff because they want to hear something like that. I think that's important. But even as you move further into the game against Miami, I think this continues the series of tests on the offensive side of the football. Matter of fact, even before I get there, we got about a good 10 more minutes. One more thing to close out defensively. I don't know what the secondary is going to look like in terms of this whole thing under Ron. Jay Tyler, again, we're talking about Ron because he's the actual play caller now. Could have talked about Jack, but Jack got fired. But like I don't know. I don't necessarily know what the coverage is gonna look like here for Ron, and if he's going to stick to like his cover 3 thing, because that's what really made the Carolina defense famous. You really had a linebacker who could do it all. And Luke Kuechly, obviously Thomas Davis was pretty good too, but Luke Kuechly was the thing who had like that was the piece who had things moving on that second level, and how his athleticism let him do a lot of the things that other people couldn't do. But or other linebackers, like I don't expect much changes here from that standpoint either. Like are we just gonna like is he gonna disguise coverages a little bit differently, or like how drastic would the changes be on the back end with these guys? Like, are you going to bench people too? Like, that's another thing. Percy Butler gave up a big catch to Brandon Cooks. Like very simple. And I don't understand like how you're in week 12 and the same thing keeps happening to you. Maybe maybe teams dress it up well, but his eyes and his processing, like he allows his hips to get manipulated so easily because his eyes are in the backfield as opposed to actually trying to pattern match or even understand the route concept that's in front of him. And I don't know what that means for the coordinators / coaching staff altogether. But like even from that safety standpoint, I said it even before Percy, like the cornerbacks weren't getting that much help from the safeties. And it's crazy because Emmanuel Forbes at this point, week 12, week 13, he wasn't really having a good season, a very good season to this point. But I still defend him from the standpoint of like, even if he was having some situations, like his support on the third level with the safeties just wasn't there. But so I kind of give it back to y'all when I ask about the coverage. I don't necessarily know how much things are going to change on the back end on that second and third level from a secondary standpoint. And I don't even know if you're going to be able to make any changes from a bench, putting people in like Quan Martin. I like him. I like how he's playing, but like, is he going to replace somebody? I don't necessarily know.
Yeah, I mean, you got to wonder that, but it is unfortunate. I know with Emmanuel Forbes, because I was hoping that we were going to see a little bit more of him down the stretch, because right before that Seattle game, who was it? The Patriots, where he had his best game against, and then he gets ejected in the Seattle game, and I thought we would see a lot more of him, but then he got injured, and we're not going to see him probably for the rest of the season, which is unfortunate. But again, Percy Butler, I think he's been pretty awful, if you ask me. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if that's a popular opinion or not. But again, I mean, do you bench him? I mean, Quan Martin.
And Jay say Defoe hurt, but Derek Forrest wasn't. Derek Forrest wasn't.
He regressed this season.
I didn't even mention. Yeah, I'm about to say Derek Forrest wasn't that good. But also I said Derek Carr. Cam Curl. I don't know where the hell Derek Carr came from. Cam Curl he hasn't like his new roles. I just think he's been late to quite a few things as like that post safety, and I don't think that should be his role. I think he really needs to stay in the box. Go ahead, Dre.
Yeah, no, and that just reminded me. I mean, because Defoe, I thought he was only going to be out for like 3 or so weeks. That turned into the whole season, didn't it? Like, wow, we not seeing him. But yeah, that's one thing. But again, I did thought that I didn't think he was having a good season. I thought he, regressed a little bit from what we saw last year from him. I thought he was forcing some turnovers. I thought maybe we would have a free safety that can go out there, but he wasn't having the best of season. But still, he wasn't as bad as Percy Butler is, in my opinion. I think Percy Butler has really struggled back there, especially with his angles. Certain times you're wondering where he's at. But that was some of the things you've seen on his college tape. So maybe something changes with the coverage standpoint that Ron might change on that end. But I do hope that we see a lot more Quan Martin. I mean, these guys like Quan Martin down the stretch, I hope to see them getting like at least 80 to 90% of the snaps. I mean, because that's what this should all be about at this point. It should be about evaluating the young guys. I know Ron, especially if he's not going to be here next year, he probably won't have much of a vested interest on what happens after. So I don't know if his, the biggest interest that he has will be developing in younger guys, but I do hope that's the case because, I mean, Quan Martin, we invested a second round pick in him. It's time to see what he can do with playing on the field, more. I don't know if that's something that Ron's going to go to. Danny Johnson, I mean, I think he's had an okay season this year. I mean, we'll see, if he can make some plays down the stretch. But what was you gonna say, Maul?
Continue.
No, I mean, because that's one of the
brother.
guys that they bench Forbes, and they brought Danny Johnson, and but none of these moves have panned out. So you just wonder how much different things are going to be down the stretch. I don't have a lot of faith that things are going to change much, but again, I just hope to see the young guys, man.
Yeah. I just want to see how the communication on the back end looks. If they do simplify things, can guys still can they attempt to get the job done with the simplification of the coverages and the scheme? I think when Ron comes out and says he wants to get the D tackles and more man-to-man opportunities, let's see if Jonathan Allen and Deron Payne can create some havoc, whether it be in the runs or the pass rushing game. Jonathan Allen pretty much said he's as healthy as he could possibly be for this time of the year, so he's not saying that the injury that he kind of started the season off with is affecting him by any means. So yeah, man, I think that's what you want to see. But I mean, it's not a favorable matchup for Ron Rivera to come in and take over the defensive
I was
ranks
thinking
when you're
about
going
that
against.
too. Like, damn, bro, you fired Jack right before you had to play the Dolphins, huh?
Yeah, like you're going against one of the most explosive offenses, and you have to be really prepared in advance to understand all these motions. Like they're probably the number one motion team in the NFL offensively. So you will have to simplify things just because of the team that you are facing. But it's not a pretty matchup when you change the defensive coordinators and having to go against Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Raheem Morset, Tua Tagovailoa, who is a pretty damn anticipatory quarterback and accurate. And like I said, there's going to be a lot of motion. And we all know that this team does not do good with motion under Jack Del Rio. It's a nightmare matchup, bro. Like, so it'll be interesting to see how it looks, but I still expect them to get blown out. Pause.
Offensively, if we look at Sam and his offensive line, and just this whole weaponry altogether, what are we thinking about against this defense? On the surface, if you look at the Miami Dolphins, statistically, right? I mean, obviously 8-3, but defensively, they're the 7th best defense in yards per game. They give up a lot of points, but yards per game, they're the 7th best. Damn near top 10 in both the run and the pass. They're 11th in passing yards per game allowed. I think Sam, from a macro viewpoint, right? I'm not about to get into specifics. I think Sam's, like, when you're talking about a level of competition being an uptick, it honestly started with the Giants. The second game, like, that was a rematch because you're talking about a Wink Martindale who can really, like, play on your level of expectations of what he's going to do. But point being, Dallas is like the real step up in competition, right? Then you're talking about the Dolphins right now, and I'll pause there. We kind of know who's on the back end after the Dolphins, but this is that continuation of, like, how are you within the rhythm of the game or the rhythm of the play if you're passing as much as you are. I don't know. I mean, I've been saying feed Brian Robinson all season. Altogether, just get something going in the ground game. How much are we counting on this same team to put up that balanced attack against the Miami Dolphins? Are we going to see that, or was that more so of a one-off against the New York Giants for the most part?
I mean, I think we probably will see it a lot more because I think I've noticed. I mean, it's still not a significant number, but the last couple of weeks, Eric Bieniemy has kind of made a bit more of an effort to have more of a balanced attack on offense. I mean, that's why we're seeing a lot more Brian Robinson. I mean, there's even been plays that's actually shocked, or drives, I should say, that's actually shocked me when he's running 2 times in a row. I'm like, wow, that's Eric Bieniemy offense. Like, he's actually running the ball 2 times in a row in a drive. Before it was like, hey, pass, and we might see a run on the next drive. So maybe this is part of his plan. Maybe he likes to do this more as the season goes on. It gets colder. When it gets colder, teams do tend to like to run the ball a little bit more. So I don't know if that's something that Eric Bieniemy kind of keeps in mind. But I do kind of hope we see it. I mean, because it'll benefit Sam more too. With him not dropping back every time, throwing, it does throw the defense off a little bit. To expect the run will have to at least, play the run. Maybe it can open things up for Sam more going down the road, because I do think it makes life a little bit harder on Sam when you're just pass. Now, I do know that, a lot of people consider the passing game sometimes to be an extension of the run. And that's probably how Eric Bieniemy views it in his offense. But I also think it puts Sam at a disadvantage a lot of times, especially in an offense where we don't really get a lot of big plays. Like, this offense is more of a chunk yard offense, and being a chunk yard offense, you open yourself up to more mistakes, stalling drives. Like, we can have 2-3 nice plays on a drive, but then we'll have one holding penalty that'll just kill a whole drive. So if you're not going to be a explosive offense where you're getting a lot of explosive plays, then you're going to have to mix it up a little bit more to kind of minimize what can go wrong on a drive, be it a sack, be it a penalty. So that's why I said they're going to have to start, mixing it up. And hopefully we do see that going forward, and it'll make it a little bit easier to evaluate Sam, at least too.
Yeah, I think offensive approach wise, I believe that they'll try to go to the short game as much as possible in the passing game. But I think you will see a combination of them use the run a bit more to try to slow down maybe Vic Fangio blitzing and not putting Sam in situations of giving up the ball, as Miami has a couple ball hawks on their team, and Jalen Ramsey, Xavier Howard, and Javon Holland. It will be interesting because Miami also lost Jalen Phillips, one of their pass rushers, due to an Achilles injury on Black Friday. But I think that the game ultimately will still be within Sam Howell's control, and allowing him to pass the ball and making plays within the passing game. I don't expect Eric Bieniemy to come out and run 35 times or even 30 times. I don't know what the weather is looking like for Sunday. Anybody know?
I could check. Go ahead. Keep talking.
Yeah, so if it's, I think I had seen it might rain Sunday, but either way, I think that they're just gonna utilize the rest of these games.
Yeah, 30% chance for rain.
Okay, I think the rest of the way they'll just utilize these games to see if Sam Howell is gonna continue to flourish within like the passing game, whether they believe that's what's happening or developing. Keep the ball in his hands and let him make decisions and see what's there.
So Will asks, do they get pressure with 4? I would have to dig a little bit deeper, but in terms of like their rates, their sack rates and pressure rates. But
does Miami get pressure?
No. Will asks, do they get pressure with 4? But their pressure rates and their sack rate is among top 10 in the league. Their pressure rate so far is 38.5%. 38%. I don't know why I just did that. 38%. Right behind the Seahawks and right in front of the Baltimore Ravens. But they're 10th in the NFL in pressure rate. And then their sack rate is 6th in the NFL. And they get sacks on 10% of the drop, or 10% of the pressures in a sense.
I was just going to say real quick. Yeah, I was going to say real quick, I think a name that you'll hear a lot Sunday, who will be giving Chris Paul and Larson some fits, is Christian Wilkins. A lot of people aren't familiar with him, but he's one of the top tier interior defensive linemen in the league. That's under the radar, but he's very active, and he will be very prominent within that game on Miami's side defensively.
100%. Like that's my dog right there. I was scouting not Wilkins, but his teammate, his man's from Alabama.
With Miami?
Yeah, he plays on
Deshaun Hand.
No, it's another dude. Damn, that's
Alabama. You're talking about Raekwon Davis.
Raekwon Davis, yeah. I was scouting Raekwon, and like I'm like, bro, like Raekwon ain't like in my head, like I ain't really talk. That's not how I really felt just talking. I'm like Raekwon ain't shit, but that man Wilkins, bro, like, bro, like they defense terrible, but this man cooking. Like or last year, like he is really that. He's really him. That's a good point. I'm glad you said his name. Okay. Let's get our score predictions, MVPs, and get up out of here. Out of Clemson. Oh, yeah, for sure. Let's go ahead and get a score predictions and MVPs. I'm gonna say, ooh, this is gonna be so fun. Cause like I don't know if I'm gonna be watching the game. I want to be watching the game. This may be one where I watch it like in an environment type shit, right? Like I may watch this one at the casino or a sports book. Instead of like watching it at the B&B like solo, like I may watch this joint at the casino. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you might as well have a sports book taking all the games.
Yeah, man, I might as well, bro. Okay, I'm gonna go. Miami wins. I'm gonna say 28-17. 28-17. The MVP of the game is probably going to be that boy, Tariq Hill. Ain't no way around it, bro. 28-17.
Yeah, I think with how much Dallas scored last week, I got Washington losing 65 to
He's
16.
Serious too.
I'm dead ass. 65 to 16.
Bro, they not about to do that, bro. It's impossible, bro.
65.
They're not about to put up 2 60-point games.
That'll be a scoregami. I don't think that's ever happened in the NFL.
Hell no, it's never happened.
65 to 16.
Hey, imagine if that happened, bro. Like
the whole team is the MVP.
Whole team. All right, man.
Yeah, I think the wheels are off. I mean, Cowboys pretty much knocked them all the way off last week. I predicted a blowout in that game, and I'm going to predict another blowout this week. I don't think the Dolphins get 40 on this. I think Ron's differences will keep them to 37. So it'll be 37-20. That's what I'm going. And we get a late score. So it's 37-13. Then they get the 20 in the fourth quarter. MVP Tyreek Hill, he's going to have 2 touchdowns and about 150 yards receiving.
Sheesh. 2 tutties. Oh my Lord. I saw 56-24. I see Washington winning 42-35. Okay. All right. Well, okay. G's outside said 42-13, but he ain't give a team. So I'm gonna go ahead and say G Washington winning 42-13, player.
Hey Monty, what type of drugs you on? what do you indulge in?
What if they go out there? What if Washington go out there and shut the Dolphins out 23-0, bro?
Man,
I'd be pissed, honestly.
if that happened, the world is going to end later on in that day. Like, and I don't anticipate the world ending.
No, I mean, personally, I'll be pissed, bro, because it's like, why do y'all do this all the time? Like, if you could go out there and shut the Dolphins out 23-0, why does it take till week 13 to do it? You know what I'm saying? Like, to do something like this when you're 4-8 and, you got to go on some kind of crazy run to end the season and have, be in the playoffs. Now you want to give us the performance of your life. No, don't do that shit now. I don't want it. Keep it.
Bro, who is defending Tyreek Hill or Jalen Waddle? Like Emmanuel Forbes is probably out for the rest of the year. Who is defending any of those guys? In
Kendall?
Yeah, wrap it up. I mean, he got experience seeing Tyreek in practice in Kansas City, but Kendall done lost a step.
Oh, I already know, man. All right. There it is, man. There it was. That is our week 12 aftermath and the game recap. Again,
Someone had to bring up Taylor Heineke.
All
Like,
30,
how does that even happen, bro? Like,
all 32
this
is
fan
back
base just pisses
tomorrow,
me off,
man.
bro.
So we're gonna go ahead and that's gonna be the last episode for this week. All 32 tomorrow. And then we'll be back Tuesday, recapping the Dolphins game. And then figuring things out from there. So enjoy y'all week, enjoy y'all weekend, all that good stuff whenever you're listening. We up out of here, man. Peace.